Okay, welcome to the second of our videos on problems in American democracy. Anders Olsson and myself, Daniel Ogden, will be talking about different aspects of American politics and the impact that these things are having on American democracy. Before we get into our topic today, just a brief reminder for people who are watching or listening to subscribe, so we have an idea of how many people are interested. Doesn't cost anything. And also, I'll just say about very briefly about the purpose of these videos that we'll be doing, trying to do once a week on a Monday. And that is to appeal to a wide variety of people, both people who are interested in perhaps a deeper analysis of American politics, but also people who are coming to American politics for the first time. So in the comment section, feel free to write your comments. If you have suggestions for things you would like Anders and myself to talk about, please make those suggestions. And even if you have really basic questions about the American political system and how it works or doesn't work, as the case may be, feel free to ask those questions as well. And we'll get back to you. So it's a broad spectrum of viewers and listeners we're appealing to. And today we're going to talk about really two main things. One is the COVID relief bill, which is now in the House of Commons. Anders explained a little bit last time what happens in the Senate and how one tries to avoid the necessity of having a 60 vote majority for anything to pass, something called budget reconciliation. We'll be coming back to that later when the bill itself is in the Senate, but we'll give you a rundown on what is actually in the bill and what we think about it. But before that, we're going to go back in time a little bit to the inauguration. And we didn't have a chance to discuss this very much last time, although we were talking about the possibility of an end and a new beginning in American politics. And the inauguration plays an enormously important role in sort of symbolically in American politics. This is very evident if you watch the inauguration. It's nothing like, like the changing of a government here in Sweden, for example, or in Great Britain. In those two countries with a parliamentary system, it's the opening of parliament, which is a really big thing because it is parliament that decides. But in America, when the president is inaugurated, regardless who that person is going to mark the end of an era and the beginning of a new era. And whether this is true or not is, of course, another matter. So I'm interested in asking Anders, my conversation partner, what did you think of it? This is not the first inauguration you've seen.
No, far from it.
Far from it, okay. Well, what did you think of this inauguration compared to others? And just looking at it and what it contained, very special circumstances this year, of course.
Yeah, unlike Trump's inauguration, this time we have the
I didn't think
riot.
we were going to talk.
Yeah, well, this time
unlike Trump, yeah, sorry.
We had the riot before the inauguration. Last time it it followed on the inauguration, but no, it's pretty much what I expected. It's everything was really nicely and tidily handled. The poem, which I suppose we will be coming back to, was that's kind of a good summary of the whole thing. It felt like almost like a third Obama inauguration. It felt like they tried to evoke the same kind of spirit of hope and expectation that Obama rode to victory on. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about the poem, Amanda Gorman's poem, because we haven't discussed this between
No, we
us.
haven't. And if you disagree, I'll just end the Zoom meeting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I have opinions, and I'm sure you do
No, but
too.
what did you think of the poem? Since I mean,
I don't want to invite the hatred of all the viewers and my my co-host Daniel, but I thought the poem was extremely bland. It basically felt like one of Obama's speeches, which is kind of fitting, I guess, because I mean it is occasional poetry, and it's I don't know if it was actually written for the inauguration or adapted from just some other circumstance, but in the context of the inauguration, it fit the context really well, and I don't have anything specifically bad to say about it. I don't want to say or lead on that I thought the poem was bad, but it felt extremely bland, and I love that democratic American presidents make room for the arts during inaugurations. I'm all for that. I just wish that the poets invited would be a little bit more adventurous, and maybe try to to tell the president-elect something about what they're expecting of the president, instead of just delivering a poem that the president expects them to deliver, if you know what I mean.
yeah. I mean, there again, it's one of the differences between the presidential system, at least the way it is in America, and the parliamentary system, because there you would expect something about what you're going to do. In fact, the speech to Parliament here in Sweden or in the joint House of Commons, House of Lords together is in fact the Queen reads it in England, but it's the statement of the government's policy. And that is a very big difference. And in America, well, party policies don't mean all that much. The party platforms, but it's an interesting difference. In America, the emphasis is mainly on the individual, and whatever is said by the president-elect, or in this case, also by the poet. Yeah, it's going to be a bit bland. It's going to be, you're going to recognize the phrases, and it's about hope or it's about change, or I mean, the message is going to be more of a symbolic thing, that we're marking the end of something, we're going on to something else.
Yeah, American inaugurations have more. It's more of a coronation, basically. Ironically,
we don't have a monarchy in America.
well, not specifically, not on paper, but but I mean, it's that's the kind of vibe I get from an inauguration.
Oh, no, but actually, it's a good point. And if Donald Trump wins in 2024, I'm just saying, you never know. You mentioned a number of other things I thought were quite interesting. You talk about Democrats usually have some sort of cultural thing. I remember Bill Clinton, it must have been his first inauguration, where Maya Angelou read a poem, which is also very symbolic. I think it was something about a tree. And Barack Obama, the first inauguration, I mean, he went all out, Maybe Bob Dylan was there. Or was that Clinton? No.
I don't remember. I remember Aretha Franklin
Yeah.
singing to Obama.
Okay, because I remember because they had people, had a person signing the lyrics and speeches and stuff. And the person signing Bob Dylan, or maybe it's somebody. Yeah, it must have been him. Viewers can
This
check.
is what I'm saying.
He just
It's
gave
so
up.
bland, it all flows together.
Sorry.
It's
Yeah,
so bland, it all flows together.
it all flows together with the fun thing with the Dylan thing, if I remember correctly. Maybe I dreamt it was the person signing just gave up in the middle because she couldn't understand what Dylan was saying. It was the new Dylan, opposed to the old. But it got me thinking, and you mentioned it. But has any Republican president used? I mean, I couldn't think of anything offhand. I thought maybe, and I do watch those inaugurations.
Yeah,
Has
no, I don't think like definitely no poetry. I I don't know. It's I can't recall any specific like music being used or anything, except for like just background background music,
yeah,
basically.
they must have some
Nothing.
entertainers or somebody, but
Yeah, they never have any like any cultural thing like as the center of attention at any point.
right.
Uh,
Well, that seems to be a democratic thing, doesn't it?
yeah.
Which is quite interesting. Another thing that was interesting you said, which I also thought about, was how sort of well managed it was. Everything was just more like a TV show, but it was more carefully managed than ordinary inaugurations, which are a much bigger celebration where you have, like Donald Trump, 3 million people. I'm being ironic, but you have what 100,000 people or something. It's a much bigger thing. But this was carefully scripted is what I'm looking for, and I like that. And okay, you're going to sing. Now you're going to speak, and I thought his speech went on a bit long, but that's another thing. Again, it's more symbolism than anything else. But of course, the whole surroundings it was a bit surreal, really, and that you knew that there were what 20,000 um, National Guard, what have you.
Yeah, I was gonna say 40,000, but I think you might be right now that you say it.
Who knows? Yeah,
But a lot of National Guard and like also the whole COVID thing.
right.
You're not gonna be able to have
Exactly.
like
Yeah,
hundred
and
thousand people crammed into.
people sitting separately. It's strange, but it led to a more well scripted inauguration, which in a way was nice. Um, And Amanda Gorman's poem, no, I reflected on it in a very different way, solely within the context of American literature. So, but as you say, it's a sort of a typical poem you would have. Again, going back to Maya Angelou, a very good poem, I thought, but yeah, it's, it's sort of political symbolism, rebirth, and something new is coming, and so forth. Um, but I reacted more to her as an American poet. And what struck me the most was that she was very much in the tradition of Walt Whitman and the type of poetry that he wrote, which is very long and very emotional and lots of internal rhyme and playing on different themes and talking about the greatness of America and so forth. And Walt Whitman was a critic of America. I mean, he worked as a nurse during the Civil War. So you can have this type of, I wouldn't say bombastic, maybe some people would, but this really highly emotional speech. Um, I hear America singing, which is all about working people, interestingly. Um, but it's a type of poetry which has influenced a number of poets in America. Allen Ginsberg is another. His poem Howl is very strongly influenced by Whitman. And I thought I saw that in her poem as well. That, together with an influence from another poet who wrote in a very different way, and that is Langston Hughes, who wrote short lyric poetry, very condensed. It sort of has a calm assertiveness about it. And in fact, one of his poems is I Too Sing America. I think it's like only 2 or 3 stanzas. And it's about, you know, people don't pay attention to me. I'm in the kitchen now, Black American. But I don't worry. I eat, I get strong. And one day, I will move to the forefront. I mean, I'm ruining the poem, but she has that element as well. So I only saw it from that point of view. It's going to be a good poem, and I was so happy to hear something besides Garth Brooks. And I hope I didn't offend anybody, but I mean, it wasn't a high point, but anyway. So that's what I thought of Amanda. So nothing about a political messaging or anything. And she wrote the poem specifically for the inauguration. She was commissioned by Joe Biden, and she worked on it right up until it was after the attack on Congress.
Okay.
And this is why she says democracy can be delayed, but it can never be. It can be postponed, but it can never be prevented.
Yeah, that I understood that as a reference to Trump refusing to leave office without a
And it's
fight.
going on. It's going on. Another video we should do is on voting in America and how easy or difficult it is. But the claims of the election being stolen, they didn't end with the inauguration. They continue, and they're inspiring all sorts of laws to make it more difficult to vote.
Yeah, I can't remember his name now, but the president of My Pillow,
Oh yeah,
the company. What's his name? Minnesota
I just
guy.
remember My Pillow.
Yeah, he just released like a week ago. He released a 2-hour movie or like a 2-hour
No.
TV special about the theft of the election with like concrete evidence.
Oh well, there you have it. Oh.
So it's that's never gonna go away. But like on the flip side, I'm still complaining about Bush stealing the 2000 election.
Oh, yeah.
So, like that discussion about people stealing elections, that's maybe going to end the day America actually has like an election system that people perceive as free and fair in place.
Yeah.
But they have a long road to walk before they get to that point.
Right. No, I think when I've talked to students about this, I mean, I suggest there is a federal election commission or something like that. I mean, why not have that? Because this is the only time, and the president and the vice president are the only people elected by the entire country. Everything else is state and local, and there's all sorts of problems there. But for the election of the president and the vice president, why not have a system in place and saying, this is what we do, this is how it's going to be carried out. We'll even have observers everywhere. And of course, people in the States say, you can't do that. But I mean, you need a body like that people can say that, okay, we respect this, or we believe in this, but it's just chaos the way it is now.
Yeah, and also you can have like a federal election committee, but everything hinges on what authority they actually have.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And like at the moment, the last couple of years, things have been moving in the wrong direction. Like removing pre-clearance from the Voting Rights Act.
Right.
That's probably a subject too big to get into right now.
Definitely.
That's like half an hour at least.
Yeah. No, people don't realize. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's I totally agree with you that there has to be like some common set of rules
Exactly.
that everyone agrees to
Right.
follow, and
Right.
some sort of institution that makes sure people actually follow it. Otherwise, you're going to end up in situations like these where every other election is perceived as stolen by a significant portion of the electorate.
I know.
And that's definitely not good for democracy. That's
No, it ties in with our thing. No, it's not good at all. Not good at all. And what happens if next time the person running, like Pompeo, just throw that name out.
Mike Lindell, the
Sorry.
Mike Lindell, that's the name, the My Pillow guy. I've heard
Okay. Yeah.
people
Well, yeah.
speculate about him
He's the one
being
who has the
the
documentary. Yeah. But like we talked about before, what happens next time is somebody more uh, politically astute and knows the political system much more than Trump did, who didn't know anything about politics before he came there, really, or how it worked. But what happens when somebody who's gone through the system knows how it works? I mean, it's scary.
yeah.
Yeah. You wanted to?
Um, can you hear me? I
Yeah.
think my connection is bad.
No, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
We'll keep
Uh,
talking.
yeah, my connection is having some issues here, it seems. But
Okay.
no, I don't really have anything more to add
Mm.
to the election and inauguration bit. So should we continue on with the
I want to say something about the
COVID
Lincoln
relief?
inauguration
Oh
because
yeah.
has some scary things there. Yeah, no, I was thinking, since we were going to talk about the inauguration, well, you know, what inauguration would come the closest to this? And I thought, and I haven't read about Lincoln for a long time, and I haven't read these recent biographies. But I thought, well, if any inauguration compares to this with the military and everything, then it must be his first inauguration. So I looked it up. He was elected president in 1860 and inaugurated in 1861, not in January, but in March, because at that time, the space or the distance between the November election and the inauguration was even longer, which gave all sorts of opportunities for people to do all sorts of really bad things. And in the case of Lincoln, it was happening because he was elected in November, although there were people who said Breckinridge, who was the Southern candidate, they said he won. You know, I think this is sounding a bit familiar. And there was a movement, a plot, in fact, to take over D.C. and put Breckinridge, who was a Southerner, to put him as president of the United States. And of course, that would have ended the battle against slavery. That didn't happen. But other things almost did. So there was a massive military presence in Washington for Lincoln's inauguration. There had been all sorts of scares and rumors, and also a true story about a plan to assassinate Lincoln. But it was very dangerous times. They say South Carolina left the Union, the United States, in December, barely a month after Lincoln was elected president. And then in the like 2 weeks prior to the inauguration, like 5 more states left the Union. So Lincoln is there. He's surrounded, I don't know how many thousands, but they had the infantry, they had the real military, the infantry and the cavalry there to protect Lincoln and also to prevent some sort of takeover of Washington, D.C. So basically, the United States had ceased to exist. The South was on its way. And barely a month after Lincoln was inaugurated, and it did happen without incident, but a month later, then South Carolina fired on the United States military installation. And that was the start of 4 years of carnage. So it was pretty, the circumstances were pretty ominous. And so it has happened before. You've had Washington in total lockdown with military watching. But also Lincoln could easily have been assassinated. I've looked at different sources, and like on Wikipedia, which is of course the basis for all my knowledge, it says, well, maybe there wasn't a plot and so forth. But the evidence is pretty strong. And there's an article in the Smithsonian that I'll mention in the description, which details this plot to assassinate Lincoln. And I won't go into detail. It's really, I mean, it's cloak and dagger, spies. It involves somebody called Pinkerton, who started now legendary detective firm. And they managed to foil this plan. It took place in Baltimore, in Maryland, and like the whole city was seething with anti-Lincoln, anti-United States sentiment. And you know, this was treachery that Lincoln had been elected. So there were a number of plots, but one plot would very easily could have been carried out because of the meticulous planning and the type of plan that it was. Except that people have a tendency to talk when they're in bars. And Pilkington was an experienced private detective. He got people to talking. And when he realized that, you know, this isn't just talk. In fact, he was there when they drew lots to assassinate Lincoln. And one person was supposed to get something, I forget what it was. And Pilkington says to this person who he had befriended, he says, well, hey, isn't that a bit risky? What happens if this guy gets cold feet at the last minute? He says, doesn't matter. 8 people have gotten the same sort of sign. So somebody's going to succeed. And Pilkington is, oh my God. And Lincoln doesn't want to delay anything. He's going by train and he's going to go through Baltimore. That's where it's going to happen. And he would have to change from one, he would have to change trains there. And this is where he was going to be killed. So the only way, and I'm going into far more detail than perhaps is necessary, but it is interesting, for Pilkington was to get Lincoln to Baltimore in the middle of the night. He was not going to give a speech or anything. He was going to go through there secretly and end up in Washington. And all sorts of things could have gone wrong. It's like a Netflix show. In fact, they should do that. And he got to Washington, and you know, the would-be assassins turned up at the train station in Baltimore, and where's the president? And so, I mean, that's really scary, but it shows how close. And actually, one figure who appears sort of on the periphery of this group in Baltimore is somebody called John Wilkes Booth,
Oh.
who later, of course, would assassinate Lincoln. But it could have started, he could have been killed. And there were plans to blow up the railroad. There were plans to take over Washington. But this was a very serious, and they would have carried it out. So a very scary reminder of what can happen. And this current inauguration with the military protection and everything, and I think there's 7,000 troops still there. It's an eerie reminder of things that can go wrong. So that's all I had to say about Lincoln. Did you know about this at all?
Yeah, I remember reading about the plot a long time ago, and I remember the article I read basically said that the only thing that saved Lincoln's life was the would-be assassins. Then they switched up the route to Washington without the assassin's knowledge,
Right.
knowing about it, and
Okay.
that's basically all that saved Lincoln's life, which is like that's like a huge turning point moment in history. Had Lincoln been assassinated, that's
We'd
I
all
mean
be
it's
singing Dixie.
yeah it's or at least
Well,
like
you wouldn't, but I would maybe. No, I would
yeah,
be in
and
Sweden. I would be in Sweden.
the fact that they managed to murder Lincoln after
Yeah.
the war was won, that led to botched reconstruction under
Oh, yeah.
Johnson.
Right.
Had Lincoln stayed alive and served us out his full term, then racial justice in the South would probably have been handled much more competently and more forcefully by the North.
Right.
So it's quite rare that so much hinges on like a certain single person living or dying, but Lincoln is just one of those guys who's like absolutely instrumental to history. And I mean, it's hard to even imagine what history would have looked like if Lincoln had been assassinated before.
Well, that's why you have all these alternative history books where the South wins the Civil War, but usually they win the Civil War instead of Lincoln being assassinated. But it also shows the lengths to which people will go.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, I mean, thinking, to actually assassinate somebody. And I can imagine a lot of people that in those days, at that time would say, a bunch of crazy talk, they're not going to do anything. And you found the same thing during the attack on Congress. Well, okay, somebody's walking around with a noose and wondering, where is Pence? And we're going to kill Nancy Pelosi, but they don't really, I mean, it's just talk. And maybe 90% of the time it is talk.
Yeah, but still, political assassinations happen all the time.
Yeah, and especially in America. So, I mean, seriously.
Yeah,
You have to take it really seriously.
Even in a place like Sweden, like I remember one of my first memories is being told that Olof Palme was murdered, and 15 years later, our foreign minister was murdered.
Right.
So it happens. It happens all the time, all over the world, and like. It's usually probably just bluster and empty talk, but you still have to take it kind of seriously.
Exactly.
You never know.
No. Well, we talked about the inauguration and possibilities of horrible things happening. We should get to the COVID relief bill. And as I said last time, you talked a little bit about what's going to happen in the Senate, but what's happening now, and what do you think of the COVID relief bill?
It's like taken as a whole, it's pretty good actually. I was thinking about this last night, and like the thing that struck me is it's a departure from austerity, and it's a break with the kind of politics the Democrats have been promoting for past since Carter, basically, 1976. So it's quite a huge departure from business as usual, and it's quite hope-inspiring. But at the same time, some of the details are quite problematic, especially when it comes to paid sick leave. That's one of my big sticking points.
What's the problem there?
Biden's suggestion, first proposal had a continuation of mandatory paid sick leave.
Right.
And the bill now in Congress has optional 2 weeks optional paid sick leave. Employers can choose whether or not they want to pay people to stay home when they're sick, and there's a tax incentive to make businesses give their employees sick leave. But seriously, in the middle of a pandemic, you probably should force something like that. 2 weeks optional paid sick leave is not going to help if someone contracts COVID. Like, first of all, it takes more than 2 weeks to to actually get well, and if you show up after 2 weeks, you're going to infect your colleagues. You're going to potentially infect customers if you work in some sort of retail or service business. It's just potentially disastrous when it comes to stopping the spread of the virus. And I mean, it's to me, there's no good reason not to mandate paid sick leave, and to mandate like 4 weeks of paid sick leave even. And they kind of went off in the wrong direction on that specific issue. But
Okay, so that's one element is problematic. Yeah, and can also mention that in America, most um, healthcare insurance is tied to your employer. Uh, so if you've lost your job, you've lost your health insurance. Okay, this was for people who are at work and can stay at home and so forth. But the healthcare issue is an enormous thing. So yeah, that is problematic. And you think that it would have been better if there'd been something more comprehensive. So that's one element. Sick leave. Um, Anything else? Something that was you thought was good, or something else you thought was limited?
yeah, some of the stuff like the money for nutritional assistance to small
Right.
children, and money to compensate people who have children who normally get fed at school. Now schools are closed, so people don't children don't get like a free or subsidized school lunch. There's money to compensate for that, which is excellent. I mean, feeding hungry children is kind of a no-brainer. Who's against that? But also,
Well,
it's
there are some people against it.
yeah, well, yeah, I was
Okay.
kind of being rhetorical, but
Yes.
no, but it's that's an excellent thing. It shows that the House Democrats put some thought into this because it's also like a health issue.
Yeah.
Children aren't exactly like a high risk group when it comes to COVID, but malnutrition is probably a risk factor. So and also it's nice to see them take the opportunity to like dump some welfare money into the system, now that they have some political cover for it. So it's that's and there's a lot of stuff like that in the bill that's related to the COVID crisis, but maybe not directly related. And it's nice to see Democrats actually like taking the opportunity to expand welfare. Like I said, it's the first time since Carter, basically, in the late 70s. And this is something that's been one of the major problems with the Democratic Party the last couple of decades.
Right.
So it's a new direction, and I like it.
No, it's a very, very interesting observation, very good observation. As you say, a step away from austerity. And I couldn't help but think about the situation in Great Britain, which has been an austerity for, well, since the Conservatives have been in power. But I mean, that's been the guiding light. You know, we have to downsize everything. And then, yeah, into the pandemic, things are even worse. And I don't know, it would seem like, at least with this particular bill, that America's taking a step in the right direction and certainly doing more than is being done in Great Britain. So that's a very important point, that it's a reversal. It's a way forward from austerity, that you improve the living and health and financial standings of the broad swath of America. And you not only benefit people, but you benefit the country and the economy.
Yeah,
And the thing about welfare is it's also very interesting to say, not since Carter, um, and Clinton famously, I mean, he came to power. He said, "We're going to end welfare," and he replaced it with the workfare, as I remember, and which worked for a while for some people, but then the economy started to go downhill. But there's Democrats have been very wary of embracing welfare, and there's another part here in the COVID relief thing about food stamps, which is one of the few, if not the only, remaining welfare payment in America, which has been very successful in keeping people from starving to death. So that was also going to be strengthened. But so yeah, it's yeah, good on you to the Democrats. I guess you're right there, because you have these COVID specific things, but then this whole comprehensive package. I mean, if they tried to pass nutrition assistance or unemployment benefits on its own, oh no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. But this is, it's no small achievement. It's a,
Yeah, it's an opening of a door, and like they've put their foot in the door with this bill, because the thing about welfare is, once people have something, it's quite hard to take it away from them, and not everything in this bill isn't going to be like a permanent thing going forward, but
yeah,
some of the stuff might stick around even after
exactly.
the pandemic is over. And
Exactly.
this is why I'm kind of impressed with the bill, and why it's more than I expected out of the Democrats. It's it's an indication that they're actually serious about improving people's lives, ordinary people's lives,
Mhm.
and uh, and they seem to understand how to go about doing that, and how to actually how to successfully deliver policies like increasing welfare, instead of like sticking to the 40-year-old complaints about like welfare queens, and we're going to cut more than
Exactly.
the other guy,
Yeah.
uh, and yeah, it's really encouraging.
Yeah.
It's
And the fact that the whole country, I read recently what it now the death toll is 500,000 or something in America. I mean, but the fact that the whole country is suffering from this, I think it makes, people who maybe, haven't been unemployed and don't like people who are on welfare and stuff like that. When you find your situation changing and you're struggling to provide for your family, you realize that, we're all in the same situation. And if we're going to get out of it, we have to work together. We have to devise plans and programs that benefit benefit everybody. So that's a very, very interesting situation, potentially, revolutionary. One thing I think speaks in favor of it is that I mean, COVID isn't going away. It's not going away next week, is it? And some of this stuff is going to get to people in March, which is a bit late. But I mean, it's going to continue in the different strains and mutations, and then the next pandemic. I mean, basically America, the whole healthcare system, everything needs to be, it's like the infrastructure, like the bridges
yeah,
from the Civil War. I mean, they need to be rebuilt. I mean, and there's resistance to this definitely, and we notice this in the Senate, but maybe people realize that, and maybe the big issue isn't gay marriage, but maybe it's, do I have enough money to feed my family and to keep them healthy?
absolutely. Like economic issues over culture war issues.
Right.
Like the cultural stuff is it's important. It's super important, but you can't do
Definitely.
one at the expense of the other. You have to do
No.
both. And I think that the Democrats stand to gain politically from this
Mhm.
quite substantially. Like, for example, I was thinking yesterday about Joe Manchin,
Yeah.
and we're going to get back to him at some
In the
later
Senate.
date.
Yeah.
Um, like once the bill reaches the Senate, he's going to be one of the most important players. But if you look at like a state like West Virginia, from which Joe Manchin is one of the two senators, that's like historically a solid blue state. Speaking about the Civil War, they actually split from Virginia over slavery. Like today, people think about West Virginia as like a reactionary backwater filled with like unemployed coal miners, like basket of deplorable type people, and just like a solid red state. But from 1972, FDR's first election, up until 2000, West Virginia voted almost exclusively for Democrats. The only exceptions are 3 landslide elections, but like in those elections, I think it's 56 with Eisenhower, 72 with Nixon, and 84 with Reagan. In those elections, like Rhode Island and Massachusetts also voted for the Republicans. You can hardly blame West Virginia for those. They were like complete landslides. Historically blue state. After 8 years of Clinton and so-called welfare reform, meaning just like leaving people to pick themselves up by their bootstraps. West Virginia hasn't voted for a Democrat once in a national presidential election. And I don't think this is a coincidence. I think this is like this is what happens when you leave people to their own devices, basically. And this COVID relief bill, like I said, it's a step in the right direction. And if the Democrats are serious about this, serious about helping struggling people, I think these people can be won back. Because if even like an inveterate racist has to a person like that has to choose between like having a roof over their head and food on their table, or sticking it to like some group they don't like, they're probably going to go for like a roof and food. I think it's like a politically clever, savvy, sound way to go. And yeah, it's
no, I think you're right, and this is why progressive, real progressive candidates and Democrats, push this. We have to push the economic issues. We could talk more about this next time to see, is this the direction the Democratic Party is going, or is it going for the suburban voter? Arguments can be made in favor of both, but I coming from Ohio, which switched Republican, Democrat, and also from a family background where my grandfather was a trade unionist, thrown out of the union because he supported the wrong Democratic candidate. Well, that's another matter. No, but and my father growing up in Kentucky, and then I lived in West Virginia for 3 years, going to college there at the height of the war on poverty. West Virginia was the only state that was completely within Appalachia. We had that distinction. And one of the professors at the college that I went to was actually actively involved in the war on poverty projects. That's something which is long forgotten about. So say it changes with Clinton, and it's not a coincidence that Democrats, it's slow but sure, they start to drift away, and then you have this solid Republican state, although you have a Democratic senator, but yes, he's a conservative. But things change, and this point is made by other people. So if we want to win back Ohio, we want to win back Iowa, and then people also say this, I mean, it's just providing for for the local community. And if you come up with policies, and it's not rocket science,
no.
but both parties have sort of, well, Now we'll talk about this. This is the part of the party that Trump activated, the ones that were forgotten about. But the Democratic Party say they have a chance to do something. I wonder if they realize this. But with the COVID thing, it's obviously some of them do. I don't know if Pelosi does. Maybe she does. But it's interesting time in history.
Yeah, but I'm kind of impressed with the Pelosi as well. I might be missing something, but she seems like she's probably not like personally emotionally attached to it, but she seems intent on passing the $15 minimum wage.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, she. I'm gonna sound like cynical saying this, but
Mm,
she's probably doing it for tactical reasons.
mm,
But at the
yeah.
same time, like I'll take it. She
Exactly.
seems way more positive about all of this than I would have expected before the election.
Yeah.
And like never look a gift horse in the mouth, I guess. It's
No, no,
I'll,
definitely. And she realizes the opposition to her okay, it's only a small number of Congress people who are really progressives. But I mean, it's filtering through the party. And also she saw what happened in Georgia and, two Democratic senators, one black. I mean, in Georgia, the deep South.
yeah, and quite left-wing
And she
senators.
realizes things are changing. So, and also, I think what a turning point for her, and I have no basis for this. We haven't talked in a long time. No, but I think what really made a strong impression on her was the attack on Congress when people were looking for her. That's going to unsettle. I mean, it unsettled a lot of people, and also hearing the testimony of different people how they were hiding in fear and all. I mean, it's disgusting. But I mean, okay, that doesn't automatically lead to progressive matters, perhaps, but I mean, it was a wake up call in some way. And the reason that because now it looks like the Democratic House is going to vote in favor of this proposal, which is say, okay, well, they have a majority, but it's only a majority of 10. And go back in time, and Pelosi would have been very, very concerned about, the Republicans and so forth. But now it doesn't seem that way, and she hopes to have a vote on Friday of this week. So yeah, for whatever reason, I mean, it doesn't matter, but she's pushing this, and if she sees a positive result, then
Yeah, it's also like hope inspiring that they elect to do this via reconciliation instead of trying to convince Republicans
exactly
to
to
vote
start
for
with,
it.
right? Yeah,
It's, doing it through bipartisanship would have watered down the whole relief package, made it basically useless. I've seen the Republican counter proposal, and it's weak
yeah,
sauce, as they say. No, so it's they seem intent on passing this thing, and uh, that's they're gonna need the determination because, like we've alluded to a bunch of times, there are Democratic senators who might go against the party line,
mm,
and pressure needs to be put on them to actually vote for
yeah,
this
exactly.
thing. And when it comes to like Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin and potential others who think of jumping ship and voting against it, again, not to be cynical about this, but my guess is they're only trying to extract favors from
Yes,
the party, and
I think, yeah,
in the end, they're going to vote for it. First of all, the pressure is going to be immense.
exactly.
Um, I would want to be the person who voted against like a $1.9 trillion bill, uh, like taking half the wage out of like millions of people's pockets,
Yeah,
and $1,400 of cash out of everyone's pocket, basically. Like it's I don't see it.
yeah.
I don't see any like political gain for Manchin, voting against it. Then again, you never know. But I'm quite optimistic about this thing passing. And like I said, on the whole, it's going to be really great compared to my expectations before the election, at least.
So maybe there is a new beginning that we questioned starting last time. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it'd be very difficult for Joe Manchin to go back to West Virginia and say, I voted against you guys getting money. I mean,
Yeah,
there'll be time
there's
to
a lot
retire.
of unemployed people there.
Even if you retire, you want to go out on a good note. I thought excellent discussion, and thanks for bringing up all these different aspects of the COVID relief bill. It's I think that's part of the interest, is the complexity of it, and something that people probably don't realize. I mean, this bill is almost 600 pages, which is like a fantasy novel, which you're more familiar with, perhaps. But I mean, an ordinary bill in America can easily be over 100 pages, and then you have the amendments. But it's really, but this is especially comprehensive. It is, and it's really interesting. Um, I know, just to end with, what do you think's going to? I mean, it hasn't gone to the Senate yet, but what do you? We assume that it passes the Senate in a couple weeks or something, but just or so it's over. Um, what's Biden's next big thing, do you think? Or
I don't know. That's where I'm less hopeful. I haven't seen anything that suggests he's going to be substantially better than even Donald Trump on like key issues like immigration, for example. He's continued to deport people, like 1,000 people a day since coming to office, which is awful. Something he promised to put an end to, hasn't done that. He's made like some gesture towards ending support for the genocidal, frankly, war in Yemen. The US military is supporting the Saudi military in bombing Yemen and like blockading ports and stuff like that. One good thing he did is he took the Houthis off the terror list. So now people can at least send aid to civilians in Yemen. But I don't know, it's not enough. And also, like one of the things you mentioned to me right after the election was this completely needless bluster towards China. Why? Come on, you have more important stuff to deal with at the moment.
Maybe what we might see is more, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in America? It depends what's going on. But this enormously comprehensive plan is going to take a while to actually get operational. And it's federal, it's state, it's local. Lots of money is going to states and local governments. I mean, everything. I mean, the whole thing is going to be, the whole political climate is and discussion is probably going to be dominated by COVID. It's just going to continue doing that. And then what happens between now and say the fall or something. Anything really new might be, the Paris Climate Accord, doing something on the environment. I mean, it already has a lot of executive actions, but again, implementing these things. And I think really just getting the government up and operational is going to be something, because Trump, one cannot underestimate the amount of damage he did to the federal government. I mean, the State Department, jobs wanted. So anybody who has a, Harvard education or something, no, but they're the best and the brightest. I mean, this is in the 60s anyway. They go to the State Department. I mean, and then Trump, I mean, they all left, of course. And Department of Education, Department of Housing. I mean, all these things, and the environment. I mean, everything he did was anti these things, and people left. Qualified people left, and they got other jobs. So just rebuilding this and making things operational, but one might see more of emphasis one way or the other on the environment, which is a big concern of his. I know he wants to push that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's still too early
Yes.
to really tell, but
No.
uh, I don't know. It's especially when it comes to like immigration and foreign policy. I've seen some tendencies that I'm not too happy about. But
Yeah.
uh, as you say, we have to like wait and see. And there's several different pressing issues to deal with
Oh,
at the moment, so
exactly.
to speak. So it's
Yeah. And the COVID relief bill hasn't even been voted yet on in the House, although I think we can safely say it's going to pass on Friday. So that's something for people to pay attention to. On Friday, the House will vote on this bill. But then something else people can pay attention to is on Sunday, another big day in American politics. And that is when former President Donald Trump gives his first public address. And I know you're waiting for this. You're going to watch it live, I know, at the Conservative Political Action Conference, which is being held in Florida this year. So Donald doesn't have to leave the state or anything. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. And of course, McConnell and others are, oh my God, no. And Pence, this conservative body is like the most conservative of the conservatives, to the right of the czars, as we used to say in America. And big name Republicans have to appear there and pay homage.
yeah.
Pence is not going this year. He's not going to be in the same place as uh, Trump. But I wonder what the speech will be. But since we'll be talking about the political parties next time, highly topical and lots of things going on, people might want to, well, read the news about the speech anyway.
Yeah, I would actually encourage people who have the opportunity to check out CPAC, because it's quite entertaining. It's something of a freak show, and like
Okay.
it's the most spectacularly crazy right-wing elements of the Republican Party
Okay.
on display. So it's interesting to say the least.
Okay.
I'd recommend like reading up on it and checking out some videos on YouTube or something.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. So it's like Burning Man, but for conservatives.
That's exactly what it is. That's
I haven't followed it actually. I mean, I know what it is. I'm sure I've seen something from it, but it's a bunch of crazies. But now the crazies are in Congress, so
yeah, it's like the Sarah Palin,
oh, that's
Donald Trump faction of the party. It's
uh, okay. Sarah Palin is going to make a comeback. Maybe she may be challenging what's her name, Magursky, well, the
oh yeah,
Republican
yeah.
who
Oh,
voted for impeachment. Mm.
uh,
So
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
oh
Or
yeah, she's a yeah. If she'll be giving a speech once, she the sometime. Uh, anyway, on that happy note, I think we'll close for today. We talked for another hour again. I thought we were very. We have a very short program. Anyway, I thought it was really interesting.
yeah,
Well, we think
thanks
it's
for
interesting. Hopefully, other people will too. We've gotten positive feedback from the first one. And I think the sound quality might be better on this one. So thanks everybody for watching. And again, if you have questions or comments, write them down in the comment section. And we will continue uploading something every Monday, depending on COVID and everything else, but certainly aim for next Monday. So thank you very much. And
thank you,
Anders,
Daniel.
okay, now I will stop recording. I'm very good at technology.